Hey guys, Josh Yoder here, founder of Future Contributions Business Development. Today we have a special treat for you. We have Andrew Haddad here, and he is a partner with FC. I can't thank Andrew enough. Without him, this would not be in existence. He is a great friend of mine. You're a mentor of mine. We really appreciate you. I just want to introduce him, and he is just a wealth of knowledge. He has been not just around the block, but around the world, and he has done a whole lot. So Andrew is a broker associate with Compass. He's a licensed real estate instructor. He is a Suncoast Group Compass senior partner. He's going to be a top producer in Sarasota and Manatee counties in real estate since 2005. Yep. He's a master certified negotiation expert, certified luxury home marketing specialist, master practitioner, and certified trainer in neurolinguistics. Did I even say that right?
Neurolinguistics.
Okay,
yeah,
you can tell I'm not the smart one in the room.
No, you're totally great.
Board certified by the Association of Integrative Physiology.
Or psychology, yeah.
Psychology, one of those two.
Yeah.
Certified IPEC business coach, PhD doctoral student, regional university, master's degree, Regent University, bachelor's degree.
Yep.
And then he's a real estate investor, and most importantly, he's a partner here at FC.
Yeah.
So Andrew, just any more you'd like to add to?
No, it's, I go by this mantra, and it started early on. I say, your business will grow to the extent that you do. Mm-hmm. And that has just been embedded in my heart and my mind. And so from an early age in my career, I was always investing in myself. And, it's expensive to go to school and get certifications and travel and do all this kind of stuff. But the truth is your business will grow to the extent that you grow as a person. So even if you're at the top, that's the problem. If you're at the top and you stop growing, you know nowhere to go. Mm-hmm. So I'm just a big believer in that. So I also invest in Costa Rica. We work in conjunction with the government, the local government over there, mm-hmm. and we work with the social housing program. So we develop communities for the extreme poverty in Costa Rica, and Very cool. It's a really great thing. And then I've designed an investment vehicle for people that want to invest in those types of projects. So not only can you make a good return, you're doing something awesome for the community.
That's awesome. Yeah. Very cool. So, starting off with, Andrew, what inspired you to start your own business? And then question number 2, and what keeps you motivated through challenges?
Sure. I'd probably say what inspired me to start the businesses. Well, initially when I started, I just started selling real estate. Mm-hmm. But it was to make a living. It was just to make ends meet. And then I got really passionate about doing training and coaching, and that's what really got me started to start these businesses. Because once I started coaching, helping other people start businesses, and really forming something from scratch, mm-hmm. I'll tell you what, there was so much reward in that. Literally coaching people, training people, helping people, empowering people. It's better than money. Yeah. So it was, I found my passion and my fulfillment through that. So that's why I started the company. What was your second question?
Yeah, the second question is, what keeps you motivated through challenges? Obviously starting all these companies, it wasn't easy.
Right, yeah. So I'll tell you what, probably the biggest thing, and we might touch on this later, is the people who you surround yourself with, period. Business is not easy. They say success is, it's simple. It's not easy though. People have to go through it. So having great partners, having a great environment, having a great team, your environment, can either raise you up or pull you down. Mm-hmm. And so, that's why we work so good together. We're always building each other up. But I'd probably say what keeps me going are the people that I surround myself with. And also not letting, getting so busy that you let your family go, because that's a huge support system for you as well. Mm-hmm. So it's so important to have the support, and environment is key. If you're in a bad environment, whether it be a work environment or bad family home life, it's really tough to get out of holes from that. That perspective.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Who inspired you in your life in your early years getting started? Who was somebody that inspired you and it kind of helps you pull through? Yeah,
definitely. So he's one of mine. His name is Chris Story, and he believed in me when no one else did. When I was first training, this was 20 years ago when I first got into real estate. They weren't even gonna pick me because I wasn't polished and I wasn't, but he said he can do it, and he stuck by me. He's a friend of mine today, Chris Dory. He lives in Michigan. He's still in real estate, and he just always believed in me. And here we are, 20 years later and doing what I'm doing. It probably wouldn't have happened without that.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, guys, we always need something in our lives. We talk about the podcast all the time is nobody's self-made.
Yeah.
Everybody's supported, and we sit on the shoulders of giants. But like I said 2 weeks ago, when you sit on the shoulders of giants, you get the same view as they do.
Sure.
So we don't have to do this alone, guys. And I'm sitting on Andrew's shoulders. So.
Great.
So how do you approach decision-making when faced with uncertainty?
Oh, that's a good question. So how do I approach uncertainty when faced with uncertainty?
Decision-making.
Decision-making.
So you're not sure about it.
Yeah. You got to be really careful because there's a logical side of decision-making, and then there's this emotional side. So, making big decisions, you really gotta run different scenarios, and it's not always going to be the best scenario that happens, but you want to run the logistics of that, of is this going to work? What are the risks in making a big decision? But also, I think even stronger is going to be that emotional side. And when it comes into the emotional side is, I really tap into my heart and my gut, and what do I really feel? Like, does this feel right? We are amazing human beings with capabilities of sensing danger and stuff like that. I truly trust my gut and my instinct of how I know people to make decisions. And the truth is if you're in business and surrounded by similar big thinkers and people with a big heart and people that want to come from contribution, it's a lot easier to make those big decisions because you have the support and backup.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. So back to the support group.
Yeah. I mean, it really comes back to the people that you're dealing with every day.
So how do you differ from a logical decision? Kind of like you get emotional. So you're attached to something, but you kind of know it's the right thing to cut off. When do you know when to make that transition? When is the right time to make transition?
Yeah.
In your head, you're like, I need to do it. But emotion is like, I don't know how.
These are great questions. You're a good interviewer.
Well, thank you. I learned from the best.
Thank you. But it's tough because emotion plays such a big role in making decisions. There's some things that you got to do it, but you're not feeling it, or something like, I really want to do this, but it just doesn't make sense. So I would probably say I do rely heavily on faith. I believe that, God has a plan for us. And I do believe that, he's not going to steer us wrong. So I do pray over big decisions, and also you got to kind of keep your emotions in check.
Right.
And, we talked about a support group and people that, having a coach or having a mentor of your own, it's amazing practice to get into the habit of running by these big decisions by people from outside the box, people that aren't. Because I always say
that's really good. Yeah.
Because you can't read the message when you're inside the bottle. A message in a bottle. Yeah. It's hard to read the message when you're inside the bottle. You need somebody outside the bottle to look at it who you trust to give you other perspectives.
And maybe someone has already been there.
And someone's already been there. 100%.
Yeah, been through that. Yeah. That's great. What's the most important lesson you learned in your entrepreneurial journey?
Yeah. I'll tell you what, one thing I do pride myself on is resilience. I can tell you the past 20 years has not been easy by any means. I've had some huge blows, but I always seem to kind of come back. And it's, one of my favorite actors, role models is I love the Rocky movie, like Rocky Balboa. And he's the one who says, he goes, no one's going to hit you harder than life. It's not about getting hit. It's about how much you can get hit and keep coming back, how much you can take and keep moving forward, because that's how winning's done. I can't believe I just said that.
That was good. That was good.
Yeah. There's such truth in that, is that the more resilient that we can become, the more that we can weather those storms and those hurdles to really move forward. So, again, faith, people around you, mentorship, support, those things are going to really carry you through the hard times. And a great home life too.
Great home life. Yeah, for sure. What would have been one of those moments, if you could pick out the last 20 years, that were really hard for you that you could share with us? Yeah. And, how you navigated that situation?
Sure. I had a specific, I remember it like it was yesterday, and I wish I knew what I knew now back then, because it took years to get through. So this was when I was selling real estate. I was working for the builders at the time. I had a huge clientele, and then of course, the 2008, 2009, the market crash, the recession. So I carried, so I sold these people this house, including my parents, and I bought a house at the top of the market. And then it all comes crumbling down. And so I had this horrible sense of regret, and I just went through depression because now I was like, oh my God, I got all these people in this situation, my parents. And it was really bad. I mean, again, for a lot of the industry, it was really bad. A lot of people, and I carried so much of that guilt to the point where I was really depressed. And, my parents had to go through bankruptcy. I had to go through bankruptcy. And here I am just carrying all that. And it took me a couple of years. I remember just to get through it. But if I would have known what I know now, which is to be able to let go and really talk to people, get help, get counseling. I shouldn't have carried the guilt like that because it wasn't my fault.
Right.
It was something that happened. And so something that took me 2 or 3 years to get over. I'll be honest with you, 2 or 3 years it took me because it was a while, Today, if that ever happened, I could probably get through something like that in maybe a couple of weeks.
Wow.
And because I know now what to do.
Because you build a support group around you.
Yeah. And it's, that's what got me so excited about getting into neuroscience and neurolinguistics, because it's all about perspectives and how the mind works. And, the mind can be your best friend or your worst enemy. And, you gotta really guard your psyche. And so when external things happen, like the market crashing, or maybe something bad happening at work, your mind, if it's not trained and you're not aware, it'll go down the bad rabbit holes.
Right.
And you got to reel that back in and really get focused, put it on, you got to see things from a new perspective. And I always like to use the example, a lot of people, you look back in hindsight, a lot of bad things that have happened turn out to be something good.
Right.
And so if you approach something that's happened that is detrimental, and you're in that moment where it's bad, if you can just future pace your thoughts and be like, you know what?
Future pace your thoughts.
Yeah.
Remember that. Write that down, guys. Future pace.
Future pace. So what it is future pace. So, let me imagine myself, and I just close my eyes. Let me imagine myself a year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. How could this thing I'm going through right now benefit me? I'm going to be stronger. I've had new opportunities. I've let go of old anchors, so that is what I would recommend, going through hard times. Does that make sense?
That makes absolute sense for sure.
That's why the psychology is so important. And with all the companies that I have, because I have 4 companies right now, I always like to say there's one constant in all these companies. It's the intersection of empowerment, communication, and mindset. It's the intersection of those 3 things. That's where everything lies.
Can you say that again?
So one of my big things that I one constant within all of my companies, in the way I train, the way I coach, and how I carry myself is it's you got to find that intersection between communication, mindset, and empowerment. So it's all about communication, not only communication with other people, it's communication with ourselves.
Yeah, so
people overlook that. Communication with yourself.
True. Yeah.
It's all about your mindset, right?
Yeah.
95% of what we think, feel, and do is at the unconscious level. If that's true, which it is true, we need to really focus heavily on making sure we have the right mindset. We have 60,000 thoughts a day. Guess how many thoughts are the same thoughts we had yesterday? About 56,000. Wow. Did you know that? So that means over 90% of how we think, do, act, feel is at the unconscious level. That's a big statistic. That's a
pre-programming almost.
You're totally pre-programmed. So there's that. And then communication, mindset, and then also empowerment. And I'm such a big believer in empowerment. So when you're empowering other people, standing in their greatness, you're empowering yourself at the same time. But you're truly coming from service, truly being authentic. And that's just how I live. And so I try to really embed those 3 things and breathe life into the businesses. And that's I feel like that's a huge proponent of our success.
That's so good. That is really good. I mean, so can you describe a failure or setback you experienced and how you overcame it? Like earlier we talked about the one that you just described.
Right.
But I'm talking about specifically more of directly involved with a bad business interaction.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so I can share something. So yeah, there was a certain business endeavor. This was probably 10 years ago. That I had a good friend, and looked up to him and all that kind of stuff, and I was quick to get into business with him, really quick, and I admired him and all that kind of stuff. And I didn't know, I was so caught up on emotion. I think I was so sold. Like I felt like I was sold on an idea, on a business idea. And unfortunately, it turned out that, that person wasn't necessarily who they said they were. And so,
gotcha.
Again, I put a lot of emphasis on trusting the person. I put a lot of emphasis on, I was really sold into this business entity. And again, it comes out that it wasn't what it really was.
Right.
And so that was a scary thing. And so what I did is we finished some stuff together, and then but I was able to learn from that. And I know that whenever I'm approached with business opportunities, I don't make quick decisions, because I made a way too quick of a decision. I definitely get to know the person who I'm going to be involved with. Be very, very cautious when you're forming partnerships.
Yeah, and that kind of goes back to what we were talking about just the moment before about how we're pre-programmed.
Yeah.
And making those decisions, because it seems like, you'll see somebody go through a pattern and they have somewhat of success, and then they go way down, they're up and down. But, in our emotional selves and our standpoint, our strong points, we don't have to go up and down within us. Our success might, but we don't, right?
Right.
So we can keep going up, we can keep learning. How do we reprogram or disrupt the thought patterns that we continually go into from childhood or to whatever? How do we reach back into ourselves and say, no, wake up in this area? And how do we change this thought pattern?
Man, you're really getting into this. I love this. You're talking my language.
Yeah.
So I like this. So first things first is awareness is the first step to change. So when people ask, how do I go back and find out,
Not to cut you off. How do you find out if you're aware? Because if you're pre-programmed, you're doing this. Is it having that person that you trust and saying, hey, there's something wrong in your life? Or
no, it's asking yourself, because whatever's happened, the results is going to speak for itself. So remember how you said if there's a pattern of people up and down. So if you ever recognize that pattern, and you're right, you might have to point it out to somebody, but if you're in a low spot, something's wrong. Right. So if you're in a low spot and it's happened before, something's wrong. And so that's when you really need to become aware. And so it's interesting. So I do a process. I learned this about 10 years ago through neuroscience, and it's a values elicitation. And we go way back to when they're when they're children and adolescents and teenage years. And we really go back to things that they've really grabbed on, like big anchors in their life where they've made decisions. And believe it or not, a lot of how people operate as adults is based off decisions they made when they were children. And I'm talking big decisions. I'm talking big, I'm not good enough. That decision. I had a client, I got to tell the story because it was so beautiful. So I was coaching this one client. She's out in Oklahoma, and she is successful in every way. I mean, she literally, she was, selling a lot of real estate, she's happily married, and she was just, it was never enough. She could never be happy. So the amount of success she was more successful in spite of her not being being happy. So there was a problem. And so we did what we call this values elicitation. And it was so crazy. I take people through their personal timeline, and we were able to take her back to where she was probably 8 years old, and she was in the room, and I have her picture it, and she was literally in the corner of the room and crying. And then she took me right back there. She had forgotten about this, and she had gotten a B on a paper, and her father was one of those that were just really tough on her. And I guess he just destroyed her. Didn't physically abuse her, but it was, it was such a big emotional trauma in her life at 8 years old. So at that point in her life, when she was 8 years old, she made a decision that she's never good enough. and she carried that decision with her into her adulthood.
Wow.
So when we were able, so what we did, and I'm going super deep on psychology on you right now.
Let's go.
But it's
deep,
really cool. So what we did is we were able to get her back into that state as an 8-year-old child, and we were able to reframe what happened, because what she had made the decision on was based on her perspective as an 8-year-old, thinking I'm not good enough, and we were able to turn that around to a new belief or a new reality. And for example, on that one, we came up with the belief or the reality that the reason her father was so tough is because he loved her so much, and it was the only daughter. And like I was able to reframe the meaning of that event in her life, and then once that is reframed, the decisions, a new decision is made, and then that is pulled forward into the adulthood. And I'm talking, this is why when you coach from that level, oh my gosh, massive impact on people's lives. Yeah, really powerful stuff.
That's awesome.
Sense?
That makes perfect sense. Yeah. So her awareness, was it her awareness? Or is it something that you pointed out, said?
Well, it was a process I had to take her through, but it was something that she found. Like it was her that finally got to that point where she realized, because she didn't know she made a decision. She was 8 years old.
Right.
She's an adult. She didn't ruin
Well, I mean, as an adult, you know, awareness.
So as an adult, what took her to this place is her constant unhappiness in light of her success.
In light of her success.
So I always say, if there's some place where you're not happy or you're not fulfilled, I guarantee it, there's something in your past that you've made a decision, and you're an innocent little child making a decision like this. You don't know. But the way our programming works is those are monumental moments in our life that are carried forward as adulthood. Right. So that's why I say I go back to awareness is the first step to a change. Awareness in the present, awareness in the past.
That's so good. Yeah, I heard somebody say one time, to add to that, you know, success is not running from something. Success is running to something.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of times in life we are running from something. Yeah. And that can actually give us the momentum, the energy, the fight that we need to get through something. Yeah. And though the outer surface of success might look good, our internal success is crushed, because that's what you just said. We're very successful. People are still depressed. Why? What's going on? It's because they're running from something, not to something. Yeah. So if we want to run to something, we're running because of our family. We're running because we love what we do. We love people. Yeah. You know, that's running to something for dreams. That's so good.
Do you know why and I love how you said that. You said that really good. You know why that is so true from a psychological standpoint? You want to know why?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have two major drivers as human beings, like in our minds. We have two major drivers. It's the need to avoid pain and the need for pleasure. As humans, the majority of people are more motivated to avoid pain than move toward pleasure. I'll say that again. The majority of people are programmed to have more motivation to move away from pain than towards pleasure. Can you kind of see this in our lives? Like that makes sense, right? Yeah. So that's why that is so true, that people will run from something, and they'll be more likely to run from something than to move towards something. But once you can switch that, and then there's nothing to run from.
So why would somebody want to run towards their pain and not towards the answer? Because of the unknown of it could be worse. Yeah. Or is it a comfort level?
I think let's change up the wording on that. They're actually pushing away from pain. Like they're pushing away from pain. And so it's not like they're running towards pain, but they're more sucked by it. You know, so like, you know, you think like release the anchors, you know, on your, you know, like you have to release the baggage because that baggage is holding you back. That's the biggest thing. Right. So one of the programs I developed was called Breaking Through Barriers. And it's really big on the fact that you have to become aware of these barriers that are holding you back. Because how can you run really fast, you know, if you got all this baggage? And it goes, you know, once you get into the zone, and I love this metaphor is, would you rather run or swim? I'm going to give you a story. Would you rather run or swim?
Depends the temperature.
Okay.
I'm just kidding. Run.
Okay.
I would rather run.
Okay. So have you ever had those moments and could you imagine running when like the wind is totally coming at you and it's harder and you're fighting and you're trying to move forward, but it's just, you're not really getting any that far.
Right.
And it takes so much more energy.
Right.
Now reverse it. And have you ever ran on the beach when the wind is at your back?
Yeah.
Like, it's just like free. I always like to use the other stories. You ever been at the airport and you're on those, what are those called? Those things that move really fast? Yeah. So when I'm doing that, I always run and I do this. I lock it in. I kind of look to the side and I'm walking and it makes you look like you're running. Yeah. You know, but you're just nice and easy. That's what it means to get rid of baggage. It's like running with the wind at your back. It's like swimming with the current, in the direction of the current. When you have a lot of baggage, the feeling that you're going to feel is like you're swimming against the current. You're running against the wind.
So it's almost like a handicap that if you take that pain away subconsciously, you don't believe it verbally, but internally you do. That if you get rid of this, you won't be the same.
You have to let it go.
You have to let it go. It's scary.
And you just nailed it, Josh. Like, you won't be the same.
Yeah.
When you let go of baggage and things holding you back, straight up, you are not the same person.
Right.
You are not the same person. And guess what? All that energy it took to run against the wind, all that, now you have this resource. This is what really, look, I just got goosebumps right now. I love, like, this is so real. You get to tap into a reservoir of an unlimited amount of energy and power when you let go of that baggage, because now you have freed up all this energy that was thinking it was protecting you.
Right.
But now you can tap into all that energy now to move you forward. That's why when it comes to transformation and, you know, helping entrepreneurs and all of this is once we can get rid of baggage, oh my gosh. I mean, people say, like, I feel like I'm new again. I feel like I'm born again. I have so much energy.
Right.
And now they can put that energy to good use.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
But a lot of good stuff. Very deep. We went very deep on you guys. But Andrew Haddad is the big writer of our leadership program. So if you guys want to get more of this information, it's all in there in our leadership program. And we're going to continually add to all of our programs.
Sure.
You know, this is just a first launch. You know, me and Andrew will be in the studios more down the weeks and the months and the years, putting more content out like this for you guys. And if you're liking and learning what you're doing today, the leadership program, futurecontributions.com, go get it today. It will change your life. So just to end this out, I would put it this way. If you could ask your 20-year-old self, you know, new entrepreneur, whenever you started, what would have been different for you, but would you gotten the same career? Yeah. Number one. If so, why? Okay. And we'll start with those two questions.
Okay. So you're asking if I could go back to
20 years old.
When I was 20 years old, when I started.
Would you get into the same career as you did today?
I would. I would do things differently, though. If I was, like, when I graduated college, I was like 22, 23. Here's what I would do. Here's what I would have done differently. I would have absolutely aligned myself with a company like Future Contributions, you know, good, powerful mentors that are, you know, light years ahead of me. I would have really dove into the mindset training then, Future Contributions. I would have done that then early on. Right. Instead of having to go through the tough route. Because there's not, you know, life can be hard. You know, starting a business can be difficult and stuff, but there's a lot of answers. There's a lot of resources out there that it's like you're going to climb a mountain and they can say, hey, take this route. This is the good route. And having that information early on, I think I would be in a different place, but I love how I got here. Right. I love how I got here. I wouldn't change it for anything in the world. I love how I got here, but it would have been nice if I was 22, if I had somebody like you in my life or so, you know, or Future Contributions, or I could have they would have helped me choose that route. Right. And I would have still gotten here, but it would have been a lot quicker and it would have been a lot more fun. Yeah. So
with a lot less energy spent on, you know, holding baggage. Yeah. And, you know, getting rid of it. Well, that's awesome. So what can people expect through Future Contributions? So if they are an entrepreneur, they have a business, or they want to start a business, or they're individual salesperson, what would be the biggest thing that Future Contributions could help them in? And why would somebody get started on the program?
Well, the beautiful thing about Future Contributions is it doesn't really matter where you're at in your level of business. So you could be having this business idea that you really want to see come to fruition, that's a good time to get with Future Contributions, because they're going to give you that right route to move forward.
Right.
Or you could be working for somebody else, seeing all of their success, wanting to have that similar success. And if you are an entrepreneur, and I think entrepreneurs are made, I don't think they're born, but if you have that need and that drive to really want to start something yourself, I think that's a place you need to go, Future Contributions. And then finally, I look at a lot of people, a lot of our clientele at Future Contributions is they've been in the business for 10 years. They've been in the business for 15 years.
Right.
They haven't had mentors like us. And so, to be able to restart and, they can give you, even if you've been in the business for a while, you can start now on a better route.
Yeah.
And so really that's what I love about the program is the accessibility at whatever levels. And so I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So the biggest thing, guys, is we all have baggage, and it's not just about getting rid of baggage. It's about continuing to have a process to recognize if we have baggage, because, you could shower in the beginning of the day, but you get to the end of the day, you should probably shower again, right? We go out into the world, it's dirty, it's messy, things happen. So Future Contributions is a safe place. We will always stand in the place of your greatness and never your limitations. I stole that from you.
I think you're right, but it's so true.
Yes.
We will always stand in your greatness
and
never your limitations. And guess what? That's the kind of people you need to have around you.
That's it.
In our cup, we believe that we have a cup. We have to continually overflow it with that kind of support and energy, because even if you leave room for doubt, one drop of dye can change the whole color of the glass.
Yeah.
So really overflowing your cup with positivity, and it's not just positivity, but good, sound business protocol, techniques, strategies, and the right people. It's the most important thing.
I could do this all night with you.
I could.
We're going to end it now for you guys, but Future Contributions, go there now, futurecontributions.com, and you can find all the information we're talking about today and dive more deep. If you want personal coaching, we're available for that as well. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll see you guys next week.